The silver moons cast ethereal shadows through the ancient crystal trees of Nyxhaven Forest. Artemis moved silently through the undergrowth, her iridescent scales shimming in the filtered moonlight. As the lead huntress of the stellar clan, she had tracked countless prey across these sacred grounds, but never had she pursued something as intriguing as a human. Stories of humans had reached their world through scattered transmissions and distant encounters, but none had ever dared venture this deep into Nyxhaven. Their clan had maintained their isolation for centuries, protecting their ancient ways and the mystical crystals that powered their civilization. Any outsider who threatened that secrecy was dealt with swiftly and permanently. Yet this human moved differently from what their records described. Instead of the clumsy, destructive behavior their archives warned of, he navigated the crystal formations with almost reverent care. His movements were precise, deliberate, as if he understood the delicate ecological balance of their world. Artemis signaled to her hunting party to spread out, their neural links allowing silent communication. Vena, her second-in-command, projected concern through their connection. "This one is different, Artemis. He bears strange markings and carries unknown technology. All the more reason to capture him quickly," Artemis responded, her mental tone firm. She wouldn't let uncertainty cloud her judgment, even as something about this human stirred her curiosity. The human paused near a massive crystal formation, removing strange instruments from his pack. Artemis watched as he gently pressed his palm against the crystal's surface, and to her shock, the crystal responded with a soft pulse of light. This was impossible, the crystals only reacted to their species' unique energy signature. She gave the signal to move in, her hunters emerging from the shadows like liquid silver. The human turned, but instead of showing fear, his eyes widened with what appeared to be recognition. He raised his hands slowly, speaking in a calm, clear voice. "I come seeking the stellar clan," he said in perfect Nyxhaven tongue, shocking Artemis to her core. "My name is Nathan Drake, and I bring warning of a threat to both our peoples." Artemis raised her crystal spear, its tip glowing with contained energy. "How do you speak our language? How do you know of our clan?" Her voice carried authority, but curiosity threaded through her words. "Because," Nathan replied, reaching slowly into his jacket, "I've been studying your people for years." He withdrew a small crystal, identical to the sacred shards their clan protected. "And I know the true origin of these crystals, and why both humans and your people can activate them." Before Artemis could respond, the crystal in Nathan's hand pulsed in sync with her spear tip, creating a resonance that rippled through the forest. The sensation sparked something deep in her genetic memory, ancient knowledge her people had forgotten. When their eyes met again, she felt a connection form, like neural pathways aligning across the gulf between their species. Vena moved to strike, but Artemis raised her hand. "Wait," she commanded, her gaze locked with Nathan's. "You claim to know our secrets, human. Prove it." "Your people believe you evolved on this world," Nathan said, his voice carrying the weight of revelation. "But these crystals? They're remnants of something far older, a bridge between our species that was forgotten. Your ancestors and mine worked together once, and will need to do so again." A distant rumble shook the crystal trees, and Artemis saw genuine concern flash across Nathan's face. Against all her training, against centuries of isolation and suspicion, she found herself believing him. The connection between them hummed with truth, and as another tremor rocked the forest, she made a decision that would change both their worlds forever. "Speak quickly, Nathan Drake," she said, lowering her spear. "Tell me what threatens my people." As crystal dust rained down from the canopy above, Nathan stepped forward, the mysterious crystal still pulsing in rhythm with their world's ancient heartbeat. The story he would tell would shatter everything Artemis thought she knew about her people's history, and forge a bond between them that neither human nor huntress had anticipated. "It begins," Nathan said, "with the truth about why your people and mine can both touch these crystals. We're not as different as you've been led to believe, Artemis. And soon, we'll need that connection more than ever." The forest seemed to hold its breath as Artemis made her choice. With another tremor shaking the ground beneath them, she gestured for her hunters to stand down. Sometimes the greatest act of protecting one's people meant being willing to shatter every rule they'd lived by. As she moved closer to hear Nathan's tale, Artemis couldn't shake the feeling that this night would be remembered as the moment everything changed, for both their species. The great crystal spires of the stellar clan's sanctuary pierced the night sky like luminescent daggers. Artemis led Nathan through halls that hadn't seen an outsider in centuries, aware of the shocked whispers and hostile glares from her people. The council chamber ahead loomed like a cathedral carved from pure crystal, its surfaces reflecting the tension in the air. "Our elders won't welcome this," Artemis murmured, her iridescent scales shifting with concern. "The last time we broke isolation, during the Great Burning." "I know about the Great Burning," Nathan replied softly. "That's part of why I'm here. History is about to repeat itself unless we act." Inside the chamber, 7 elders sat in a semicircle, their aged scales dulled to a deep silver. Elder Theron, his face etched with the wisdom of 2 centuries, leaned forward on his crystal throne. "Artemis, daughter of the stars, explain why you bring this human before us." Before she could speak, Nathan stepped forward and placed his crystal on the ceremonial pedestal. The reaction was immediate, every crystal in the chamber pulsed in harmony, creating a symphony of light that hadn't been seen since ancient times. The elders' shocked gasps echoed off the walls. "Impossible," Elder Theron whispered. "The crystal song, it was lost to us generations ago." "Not lost," Nathan said, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "Forbidden. Just like the truth about the partnership between our species." He activated a holographic display from his wrist device, showing ancient cave paintings that made the elders shift uncomfortably in their seats. The images showed humans and the stellar clan working together, building great cities, and most importantly, fighting a common enemy. 3,000 years ago, our peoples faced a threat that nearly destroyed both our worlds. The crystal song wasn't just a ceremony, it was a weapon. The only weapon that worked against them. Artemis watched the images with growing unease. The neural connection she shared with Nathan since their encounter in the forest pulsed with his sincerity, but also with an underlying fear. Through their link, she caught glimpses of what he'd seen, massive dark ships appearing at the edge of their solar system, bearing markings that matched those in the ancient warnings. Elder Theron's voice cracked with emotion. "We have protected these crystals for generations, keeping them dormant to avoid detection. If what you say is true..." "The Void Hunters have already detected us," Nathan interrupted. "They follow the crystal energy signatures. Keeping the crystals dormant didn't hide us, it only left us unprepared. Earth's deep space sensors detected their scout ships 3 months ago. They'll reach this system within weeks." A younger elder, Lyra, rose from her seat. "And we should trust the word of a human? Our isolation has kept us safe." "Has it?" Artemis stepped forward, standing beside Nathan. The proximity made their neural link surge, filling her mind with clearer images of the threat they faced. "Or has it only made us forget who we really are?" The tremors in the forest, they're getting stronger. The crystals are resonating with something approaching, just as our oldest stories warned. Nathan pulled up another hologram, this one showing the dark ship's trajectory. "Your people and mine created the crystal song as a shield and a weapon. But it requires both species to work. That's why the crystals respond to both of us. We're not meant to be separate, we're meant to be allies." Through their connection, Artemis felt Nathan's memories of years spent studying their shared history, his desperate race to reach them before the Void Hunters arrived. She saw his countless rejected attempts to contact their people, his final decision to risk everything by entering their territory. But most surprisingly, she felt his genuine awe and respect for her people, so different from the fear and hatred they'd been taught humans harbored. Elder Theron rose slowly, his ancient frame straightening with purpose. "Show us," he commanded. Show us the crystal song as it was meant to be performed. Prove that our peoples can still work together as the ancients did. Nathan looked at Artemis, and through their link, she understood what they needed to do. Together, they approached the central crystal formation. As their hands touched its surface in unison, the neural connection between them exploded into something greater. The crystal began to sing, its resonance building until the entire chamber hummed with ancient power. The other crystals joined the chorus one by one, creating harmonies that hadn't been heard for millennia. Through the connection, Artemis saw flashes of the past, their ancestors standing together against the darkness, using this same power to drive back the Void Hunters. But she also saw something unexpected: emotions, memories, fragments of Nathan's life that spoke of his determination to bridge the gap between their peoples. As the song reached its crescendo, Elder Theron's voice cut through the harmony. The ancient texts spoke true. Human and stellar, their energies combined, create power greater than either alone. He looked at the other elders, his expression grave. We must convene the full council. If the Void Hunters truly return, we will need every scrap of ancient knowledge, every bit of power our peoples can muster together. Artemis felt Nathan's relief through their link, but also his concern. They had convinced the council, but precious time had been lost to generations of isolation. As the elders filed out to spread the word, she turned to him. How do we prepare for an enemy we've forgotten how to fight? Nathan's eyes met hers, and through their connection flowed not just determination, but something deeper, something neither of them had expected to find in this alliance. Together, he said simply. The way we were always meant to. Dawn broke over Nyxhaven Forest in shades of amber and rose, casting prismatic reflections through the crystal trees. In the training grounds outside the sanctuary, Artemis watched as Nathan demonstrated the ancient combat forms to a group of skeptical warriors. Their neural link let her feel his determination, his patience as he worked to bridge centuries of distrust. The crystal song isn't just about power, Nathan explained, his hands guiding a young warrior's grip on a crystal spear. It's about harmony. The crystals amplify what's already within us, human intuition combined with stellar precision. Through their connection, Artemis felt his exhaustion. They'd spent the past week preparing for the Void Hunter's arrival, sleeping only when absolutely necessary. The constant proximity had strengthened their neural link to the point where she could sense his emotions as clearly as her own, something that both thrilled and terrified her. Artemis, Venna approached, her expression troubled. The deep space sensors Nathan helped us reactivate are picking up movement. The Void Hunter's fleet, it's larger than we anticipated. Nathan's attention snapped to them, and Artemis felt his spike of concern. The young warrior he'd been training stumbled, the crystal spear's glow flickering. Show us, he said, already moving toward the command center they'd established in one of the sanctuary's lower chambers. The holographic display filled the chamber with an ominous red glow. Dozens of massive ships moved through the darkness between stars, their black hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Through their link, Artemis caught fragments of Nathan's strategic analysis, the fleet's formation, its likely capabilities, the devastating power they would face. We have maybe 3 days, he said, his voice tight. The outer colonies need to be evacuated to the sanctuary immediately. The crystal network here is strongest, it's our best chance at generating a shield powerful enough to withstand their initial assault. Artemis studied the tactical display, her warriors' training asserting itself. The evacuation will take at least 2 days, even if we send every transport we have. That leaves barely enough time to. A violent tremor cut her off, stronger than any before. Crystal dust rained from the ceiling as the entire sanctuary shook. Through their link, Artemis felt Nathan's horrified realization moments before the sensors confirmed it. They're already here, he breathed. That's impossible. They must have developed some kind of faster-than-light capability we didn't know about. Venna's voice carried over the sanctuary's communication network, multiple ships entering the atmosphere. They're heading straight for the outer colonies. Artemis felt the weight of leadership settle over her like a physical burden. Vena, sound the evacuation alarm. Get everyone moving toward the sanctuary now. She turned to Nathan, their link humming with shared purpose. We're not ready. The warriors haven't mastered the crystal song, the defenses aren't fully powered. Then we'll have to be enough, Nathan said, grabbing his modified crystal staff. Through their connection, she felt his iron resolve, his refusal to let history repeat itself. You and me, Artemis. We've achieved perfect harmony in the song. If we can hold them off long enough for your people to reach safety. The unspoken implications hung in the air between them. A two-person defense against an alien armada was suicide, but through their link, neither could hide their willingness to make that sacrifice. Another tremor rocked the sanctuary. Above them, through the crystal dome, they could see dark shapes descending through the clouds, their hulls drinking in the sunlight like wounds in the sky. Artemis, Nathan's voice was soft but urgent. Through their connection flowed emotions too complex for words, respect, admiration, and something deeper that neither had dared to name. There's something you should know, in case we don't. She silenced him with a gesture, her scales shifting to match the determination in her heart. Tell me after, she said firmly. When we've saved both our peoples. Together, they raced to the sanctuary's highest spire, where the largest crystal formation thrust toward the sky like a spear of light. Warriors and civilians rushed past them heading for shelter, their faces masks of fear and confusion. Through their neural link, Artemis and Nathan moved in perfect synchronization, their footsteps matching, their breath aligned. They reached the spire's peak as the first Void Hunter ship entered weapons range. Up close, its hull seemed to bend light around it, making it hard to focus on directly. Ancient instincts screamed at them to run, to hide, to surrender to the primal fear these beings inspired. Instead, Artemis and Nathan pressed their hands to the master crystal's surface. Their neural link exploded into something transcendent as the crystal song began to build. Energy coursed through them, human and stellar perfectly aligned, their shared consciousness expanding to encompass the entire crystal network. As the Void Hunters opened fire, a shield of pure crystalline energy erupted from the spire. The song grew in complexity and power, harmonics building upon harmonics until the very air seemed to vibrate with its force. Through their merged consciousness, Artemis and Nathan became something greater than either species. They became the shield, the weapon, the fulcrum upon which the fate of two worlds would balance. The first barrage struck their defenses with world-shattering force. But as crystal dust rained down around them and darkness descended from above, their hands remained joined, their spirits intertwined, their song defiant against the void. They were no longer simply human and Huntress. They were the last line of defense, the guardians of both their peoples, and through their neural link flowed not just power, but a love born of understanding that transcended species. As the battle for survival began in earnest, that love became another harmony in their song, and perhaps their greatest weapon against the darkness. The crystal shield hummed with power as another blast from the Void Hunter's weapons struck its surface. Through their merged consciousness, Artemis and Nathan felt every impact like physical blows. Their shared song wavered but held, protecting the thousands of refugees still streaming into the sanctuary below. The outer colonies are almost evacuated, Vena's voice echoed through their neural link. But we're detecting energy buildups in the enemy fleet. Something bigger is coming. They didn't need the warning. Through the crystal network, they could feel it, a gathering darkness that made the very air grow cold. The Void Hunters' ships were moving into a formation their ancestral memories recognized. The pattern of ending, the same attack that had nearly destroyed both their peoples 3 millennia ago. We need to do more than defend, Nathan's thoughts flowed into Artemis's mind. The song was meant to be a weapon too, remember? But the archives didn't show how. A blast of unprecedented power cut through their shield like black lightning, striking one of the sanctuary's smaller spires. Crystal shards exploded outward as the structure collapsed, taking a section of their defenses with it. Through their link, they shared the pain of dozens of lives suddenly snuffed out. Artemis's grief and rage poured through their connection, merging with Nathan's own. Their song shifted, taking on harmonics of fury and determination. The remaining crystals pulsed brighter, their light somehow deeper, more primal. That's it, Nathan's revelation flowed between them. The song responds to emotion as much as thought. Our peoples didn't just work together technically, they felt together. That's the key we've been missing. Understanding bloomed in their shared consciousness. The ancient crystal song wasn't just about combining human and stellar energy signatures. It was about the space between species, the emotions that transcended physical differences. Love, rage, hope, determination, these were the true catalysts of its power. Through their deepening connection, memories surfaced, not just their own, but ancestral ones encoded in the crystals themselves. They saw the first human-stellar partnerships, felt the depth of bonds formed across the species barrier. The crystal song had never been meant as just a weapon or shield. It was a bridge between peoples, a reminder that strength came from unity rather than isolation. Above them, the Void Hunters' ships completed their pattern. Dark energy began to coalesce between them, forming a vortex of absolute darkness that threatened to devour light itself. The pattern of ending was nearly complete. But something else was happening too. As Artemis and Nathan's emotions flowed freely through their link, the crystal song began to change. New harmonics emerged, frequencies that resonated with the very fabric of spacetime. The crystal network wasn't just channeling power anymore, it was transforming it. The evacuation is complete, Vena reported. All survivors are within the sanctuary's inner chambers. Artemis felt Nathan's resolve crystallize through their link. Then it's time to show them why our peoples were meant to stand together. Their merged consciousness expanded further, encompassing every crystal in the sanctuary. As the Void Hunters unleashed their ultimate weapon, Artemis and Nathan poured everything they were into the song, not just their power, but their trust, their hope, their growing love for each other, and their shared determination to protect both their peoples. The pattern of ending struck their shield like a collapsing star. But instead of shattering, the crystal network absorbed the darkness, transformed it. The song reached frequencies that hadn't been heard since the universe was young, harmonics that made reality itself shiver in response. Through their link, Artemis felt Nathan's joy as he understood what was happening. The crystal song wasn't just deflecting the attack, it was turning the Void Hunters' own power against them. Every crystal in the sanctuary blazed with transformed energy, sending it back at their enemies in a wave of purifying light. The first Void Hunter ship caught in the wave simply ceased to be, its light-absorbing hull overwhelmed by the power of their combined song. Others tried to flee, but the wave expanded exponentially, catching them in its harmonics. Ship after ship vanished, their ancient enemy's darkness transformed into light. But maintaining such power came at a cost. Through their connection, Artemis felt Nathan's life force beginning to fade. The human body wasn't meant to channel such energies for so long. Her own strength was failing too, their shared consciousness starting to fragment under the strain. Don't you dare, she pushed her own remaining strength into him through their link. We started this together, we'll finish it together. Their hands, still pressed against the master crystal, had begun to burn with transformed energy. But neither let go. As the last Void Hunter ship disappeared into light, as their song reached its final, reality-altering crescendo, Artemis and Nathan held onto each other through their neural link. The wave of power expanded to its limit and then collapsed back toward them with devastating force. The last thing Artemis felt through their connection was Nathan's unwavering love, his certainty that whatever came next, they would face it as one. Then the light took them both, and the crystal spire erupted in a final burst of blinding radiance that lit up the sky like a newborn sun. Consciousness returned to Artemis slowly, like starlight emerging from eclipse. She was lying in the sanctuary's healing chamber, surrounded by softly pulsing crystals. Her first coherent thought was of Nathan, followed by the shocking realization that their neural link remained intact, though altered. Through it, she could sense him nearby, his consciousness gradually surfacing from the same void that had claimed them both. The link was different now, deeper, permanent, changed by the massive energies they had channeled together. Their awakening, Elder Theron's voice reached her through a haze. After 3 days, they finally returned to us. Artemis turned her head to find Nathan on a crystal bed beside her, his eyes fluttering open. The sight of him alive sent a wave of relief through their connection, echoed immediately by his own joy at seeing her. Their hands reached for each other instinctively, and the healing crystals around them hummed in response. The Void Hunters? Nathan's voice was rough but urgent. Gone, Venna stepped into view, her scales shimmering with barely contained emotion. Completely destroyed. But that's not all you accomplished. She gestured to the chamber's window. Supported by each other, Artemis and Nathan made their way to the crystal pane. The view outside left them breathless. Where there had been only forest before, crystal spires now rose from the ground like new growth after spring rains. But these weren't the pale blue crystals of their past, they shone with swirling colors that seemed to contain entire galaxies within them. The final wave of power, Elder Theron explained, it changed everything. The crystal network has evolved into something new. Something that carries the combined essence of both human and stellar energy patterns. Through their link, Artemis and Nathan shared their wonder at the transformation. The new crystals resonated with both their energy signatures naturally, requiring no effort to activate. But more than that, they could sense the crystals were generating entirely new types of energy, creating possibilities neither of their species had dreamed of. The isolation ends today, Elder Theron declared, his ancient voice carrying the weight of history. The Void Hunters sought to destroy us because they feared the power of our peoples united. Now we understand why. A group of human scientists and diplomats had arrived while they were unconscious, drawn by the massive energy signature of their battle. Through their link, Nathan felt Artemis's momentary tension, but it was overwhelmed by hope. The humans moved among the stellar clan members with cautious respect, already working together to study the new crystal formations. The song, Artemis said, her voice gaining strength. It wasn't just a weapon or a shield. It was a blueprint for something greater. Nathan nodded, their shared understanding flowing through their connection. A reminder that we're strongest when we stop fearing our differences and learn from them instead. Elder Theron approached them, holding 2 shards of the new crystal. These formed directly from your combined energy during the final blast. They're unique. When we tested them, they responded to no one else's touch. As Artemis and Nathan each took a crystal, the shards pulsed with inner light. Through their neural link flowed the understanding of what they were being offered, a chance to be bridges between their peoples, to help forge the kind of partnership that had always been meant to exist. There will be challenges, Nathan said, looking at the humans and stellar clan members working together. Centuries of isolation and mistrust don't vanish overnight. Artemis squeezed his hand, sending reassurance through their link. But this time we face them together. Not just you and me, but all of us. Above them, the crystal dome of the sanctuary had been transformed into a swirling aurora of colors, a physical manifestation of 2 people's energies combining into something new. The neural link between them hummed with shared purpose and deeper emotions that no longer needed to be hidden. The ancient texts spoke of a time when our peoples would transcend our differences and reach for something greater, Elder Theron said. They called it the awakening. He looked meaningfully at their joined hands, at the crystals that pulsed in harmony with their shared heartbeat. Perhaps they weren't speaking of the past at all, but of this moment. As if in response, the crystal shards in their hands pulsed brighter, sending ripples of light through the new growth outside. Through their permanent connection, Artemis and Nathan shared not just thoughts but a vision of the future, one where humans and the stellar clan worked together to unlock the full potential of their combined gifts. The sun was setting outside, painting the transformed landscape in colors no one had seen before. As darkness fell, the new crystals began to glow, creating networks of light that looked like star maps drawn on the earth. Standing together at the window, watching their peoples begin the work of building a shared future, Artemis and Nathan felt their neural link pulse with shared joy. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger. They had taken centuries of division and forged unity. And in finding each other, they had helped both their peoples remember an ancient truth, that the greatest power comes not from isolation, but from having the courage to reach across the void and connect. As night fell completely, the crystal forest blazed with inner light, a beacon of hope visible from orbit. It was a signal to the galaxy that humanity and the stellar clan were no longer separate peoples, but one united force. And at its heart stood two figures, their hands clasped, their minds linked, their love a living testament to the power of bridging the space between stars.